How to be successful when getting a mortgage. Those of you that are first-time listeners, I am a mortgage professional. That's what I do for my full-time career when I'm not hanging out here once a week in studio to talk with you guys. And so I thought I would do have Money Chat and talk a little bit about my arena, because there's a lot of things that happen in the mortgage industry. And it's like anything else in life. When you see things that don't go right with processes and procedures, they're not one-off things. There are things that consistently go wrong over and over and over and over again. And when it comes to mortgages, the reason things would go wrong in the mortgage process, it's not your fault. It's your mortgage consultant. Somebody is not communicating the right way to help you understand what needs to happen to make this process go smoothly and on time. So I figured out that there's 8 tips, and that's how simple it is. I won't say getting a mortgage simple, because it's not. There's a lot that goes into getting a mortgage. It's not a lot of fun, but as long as you know that you've got to provide a lot of paperwork and you've got to move quickly, then everything's going to run efficiently, smooth, and on time with the least amount of stress. So there's 8 tips that you need to know, and this is during the closing process. So once you've had an offer accepted on a home, as long as you know these 8 tips and you follow them, everything is going to run efficiently, smooth, and on time. So here's the first tip, turning around your documents. You want to expedite this process, and you can start by, in the approval process, making sure that you get all your completed tax returns, any documentation that you have of moving money around in your accounts. That's another thing that sometimes can take time if you don't know. But you want to expedite and get your documents turned around as quickly as possible. I tell my clients 24 hours. So in a typical closing period, as long as documents are getting turned around within 24 hours, everything is going to run efficiently and smooth when it comes time to the document process. Also, don't ask any questions on why you need to provide the items, because it just wastes time for you. You have to provide everything. And here's something to kind of look at. I always tell my clients it's not the underwriter. The underwriter is not the person that is trying to make things difficult for you. Honestly, the underwriter wants to approve mortgages. That's what their job is. But at the same time, the underwriter is required to protect the company, because if they don't, not only are they going to lose their job, but the company also isn't going to be able to lend money to new future homeowners. It's not the lender that comes up with these regulations either. It's the secondary market. So they put together what's required and what needs to happen, because banks lost that privilege after the mortgage meltdown. So get things turned around and move forward efficiently on that. Updated documents, just know that you're going to have to provide them. And why somebody would be asked for a pay stub at the closing table, I have no idea. You should know up front that you're going to have to provide every single pay stub all the way until the time that you close. So every time you get a new pay stub, send it over. Every time, just send it over, because there's so many people I see, they're sitting at the closing table and they're trying to scramble at the last minute because they need a pay stub. Well, if you were communicated up front that you need to continue to provide them, you would have provided that a few days ago when that pay stub came in. Same thing with bank statements. Any asset statements, just keep on sending over the new ones all the way through the process until you close on your mortgage. Now, I'm not talking about during the approval process, because there could be 6 months before you actually find a home. But once you have an offer accepted, you're going to update and continue to update all the way till closing. New debt. Don't get any new debt at all. Don't open any credit cards. There's no reason why you want to be shopping during the home closing process. And if you do want to shop during the home process, you're thinking about it as more than you typically are, because you're getting a new house. So there's appliances and all kinds of cool things. And I'm going to talk with Jean on how to protect all those new appliances and things that you're going to be purchasing. But just wait till you get in your house and then do it. It doesn't matter if there's qualifying issues or not. Just say that you've got tons of room. If your mortgage consultant says, your debt to income ratio is really low, you don't need to worry about it, you got plenty of room. The issue is not just that. It's the fact that something new shows up on your credit report, and that triggers the fact that it needs to go back to a different stage, and you're starting that process over. You're going to lose time, and things aren't going to close on time, most likely. Don't open up any new credit cards or any of that. Life changes would be change of job, change of positions within your employer, income changing, anything that's changing from the time that you've been pre-approved until the time that you close. It doesn't mean that you can't change your jobs. You just want to pick up the phone and you want to ask your mortgage consultant first before doing that. Deposits. Oh, and also in life changes, you don't want to be getting married or divorced during that process either without checking with a mortgage consultant first, because there's things that can totally change in the paperwork for that. Deposits, make sure that you're just holding on to everything and talking with your mortgage consultant as money is coming in of your account, because you do have to paper trail and verify all of those funds. You don't want to deposit any cash. Cash during the closing process is bad because it can't be verified. And again, these are strict regulations that are set up by the secondary market, not set up by the lenders, just guidelines that they have to follow. And 7th is the signing date and cash needed for closing. Unfortunately, it's just the way the timeline or the industry works. And I have to say that the mortgage industry is the one that kind of messed things up here. Escrow has a really hard job. They get everything at the very last second, and they've got to pick up all the pieces that everybody else dropped in the process. And they're the last ones that you talk to, which means a lot of times things get blamed on escrow when it's not their fault. So they're starting when everything is already behind. It would be really nice if you could get a signing scheduled from the escrow company prior to, so that you know when that's going to be. But unfortunately, they don't do that. And I don't blame them, because what happened was the mortgage industry would commit when they're going to have loan documents over to escrow. The escrow company would schedule a signing with the buyer, and then that time comes and the documents haven't arrived yet. So that's why it works like that. The reality of what happens is you're going to find out when you're going to sign 2 to 3 days prior to closing. So it's no big deal, and it's not going to cause any stress as long as somebody communicates that up with you up front, and you know that sometime 2 to 3 business days prior to closing, you're going to go into escrow. I'm sure if you let your employer know that you're in the middle of buying a house, they'll make exceptions. And if not, take some time off during that time. If for some reason, if you're purchasing with a spouse or a significant other and they're not going to be in town, then you can get a power of attorney set up. So there's lots of things that you can do to prepare up front as long as you know what's expected. And then cash that you need to close, you don't know the exact dollar amount until you get to closing. Hopefully you're working with a good mortgage consultant where the figures are going to be high. I always tell my clients, things are going to be within $500, usually up or down, and it'll be in that range. But you don't know the exact dollar amount until escrow figures out all of those final figures. And last tip, if you plan on leaving town for more than an extended weekend, rethink it or talk with your mortgage consultant first. I hear things going around in the office that there's an issue because, oh gosh, my clients decided to leave town during the signing period. Well, if somebody would have told you that, you would have never planned a vacation. I'm sure of it, because you're in the middle of a closing process. Again, it's all about just communicating and knowing up front. If you want my 8 tips to successful closing, I actually have 8 tips for an agent as well. There's a lot of things that realtors do on a regular basis. None of the ones that come into studio, because again, I only have the best of the best in their industry that I invite in here. But if you want any of the tips or anything that I talk about during Money Chat or information provided by my guest, again, you can give the show a call, 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And coming up next on the Money Hour, what does it take to be successful and to follow your passion? My next guest advice can be for anyone, whether you're selling real estate or you're taking care of the kids at home, or anything that you're doing, you'll benefit from Dan's segment. Dan Wingard, current CEO with Keller Williams Real Estate Bellevue, right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.